Did you miss me? Go on, you know you did. Just a little bit. Well, it's been a long time, actually, seemingly, since I put up a video last, but there is a Cinquecento back in my garage. That is right. I've been driving the Lemon round for a few weeks, and there is some stuff about it that I do not like, and I'm going to be fixing and changing in this episode. So, in today's episode, this is what we're going to be doing. Yeah. I don't know what's happened to that. Yes, that's right. So we're going to be doing some stuff on this. It's actually been a huge amount of fun to be driving around in it, but there's some problems that I've been ignoring for a little while because, quite frankly, I can't bother to take it off the road. I just like having a car that I can drive, but I can ignore them no more because they are proper winding me up. I do plan on taking this car off the road later in the year when the weather gets a little bit worse, although it's not been perfect anyway, to completely rejig some stuff, tweak a few bits, mod a few bits, and completely do some other stuff. So, but not yet. I like having a car to use, but unlike Mighty Car Mods, I usually say first step, jack up your car. For me, at least, every single time I seem to do anything to a Fiat Cinquecento, it involves me taking off the front bumper. No idea why, but first step, take off your front bumper. For those of you that need to know, or hoping I will show you, the bumper is dead easy to take off. You've got two bolts here. You have two bolts just at the bottom of the bumper, and if you look inside my bumper here, you can see it bolts one there, and it bolts one just in there, and you've got two more just here, one there, which is on like a square insert that goes into your bumper, and one the other side. Now I usually don't run these outside ones because I'm a little bit lazy or efficient, which way. Okay, first problem we're going to fix with this car is the overheating. So I've tested that the fan does definitely work. I put a wire between the two connectors on the fan temperature sensor, and it works. A little bit tired and sounding, but it does the job. So I'm almost certain, in fact, I am absolutely certain, that is that sensor that has gone wrong. Now, it did snowball a little bit, and I thought, well, if I'm putting the new sensor on it, I'm putting some nice new coolant in it, then I should put a new radiator on there, and maybe I should put my uprated fan on it. Maybe I should build a shroud for it. This is how you end up spending 7 years building a turbo one. So I do have big plans for this over the winter and autumn, but I don't want to get into that now. I just want to drive it while the weather is still good. So it's going to be drain it, flush it, new sensor, put it back on exactly as it was, and then later in the year, then we'll tackle this and make it much better. But I just want it fixed. Yeah, I don't know what's happened to that, but it was about time I did a flush and stuff anyway. Either way, disgusting coolant aside, this is dead easy. It's a little clip there, just pull this little clip up here. And for future reference, if you ever want to test whether this is your culprit, just get some sort of fairly, not overly thick wire, put one there, one that side, and if the fan turns on, then you know your switch is the problem. You will need a pretty big spanner for this. I'll report back what size in a sec. I decided to be lazy and I got this big bad boy instead. So if you've got one of these, use that, because it is much easier. Now I didn't think this was actually that old, but I don't know, it didn't want to work anyway. So for the sake of £12 or whatever it was, it's absolutely worth a new one. Remember, always replace your washer because it will leak, I promise. Now remember, when filling your system, you're not going to be able to get all the air out of it straight away because obviously you need the thermostat to open and start circling the water properly when it's actually hot. And also you have this little bleeder here, which again, that releases a bit of air out of the radiator, and you should have one there as well, which releases any air locked in the heater matrix. Now, hopefully my one's been removed for reasons I'm not too sure. So that's probably going to end up burping at some point later down the line. So either way, I'm going to fill it all the way up to max, get the car started up, get it hot, and then just let everything circulate around, and hopefully we get all the air out of the system. That's the plan anyway. Look. Right, so I've ran that up to 10, managed to burp quite a lot of the air out of it. Obviously, to do it properly, you need to take it for a drive, which I'm not going to do yet because my bumper and stuff needs to go back on. The fan didn't kick in, which is a little bit weird, but I'm hoping it's just an airlock or something. But I have ordered a new water temperature sensor anyway, just in case the gauge is reading off, and that second hand one I put on it's a bit iffy. Either way, I'm not going to concern myself with it too much for now. I'm going to do the other job, which is what I got the bumper off for, and that is to fit the oil cooler, at least to the most part, and I'll explain as we go. Now, anyone who's paid any vague attention to this car since I've got it will notice that there is no mesh in the front bumper, and there's a reason for that, because I've bought the mesh, but I always knew I was going to run an oil cooler on this car on one side, with it being essentially open. And I wanted to make sure I got the oil cooler in the right place so I could then mesh the rest of it. So we're going to bolt the oil cooler up, not actually plumb it yet, because that's one of the other jobs I want to do in the winter, to do it all properly with a proper sandwich plate and all that jazz. So like I said, I've already made the bracket, which I've got around here somewhere. Here we go. So the oil cooler is going to sit down just inside the bumper like this, or thereabouts. Even just holding this up like this, because it's only lightweight aluminium brackets, it's still got a little bit of flex in it, so we don't want this thing moving around. I didn't really want to make them out of steel if I could help it, so I've managed to go get a little bit more of this aluminium rod bar, and what I'm basically going to do is make the exact same bracket this side, so it boxes it off, and it'll just be bolted through then with one bolt. I didn't want to go to try and get anything welded, because I can't weld aluminium, so there's no point. But obviously box sections are stronger than C sections, so hopefully when that gets bolted on, it'll be strong as you can be. I tell you, one thing I don't miss about my garage being back in car mode is the fact that I've folded down my nice big workbench there, and I'm back down to this tiny little one, which you can tell from the size of my hand isn't a lot of room to be able to do stuff. But we're going to soldier on. I'm going to unbolt these bolt holes here, take this off, just use it as a mock-up. I say I'm literally going to make the exact same one the other side, drill the holes in the same place, whole shebang, bolt it back on, and bolt it up to the car. See the hole I've drilled there, and it just needs to be big enough, if I can do this upside down, to fit that little riv nut in there, and then we'll use the tool to crimp that in place. Now what I'll do is I'll bolt one side up and then mark the hole for the other one. I just find it, if you do one side first and then mark the other side, just means nothing's going to shift and you're not going to get it not fitting and stuff. Little top tip. There you go, look, one thread nut there, and one thread nut there, and you'll see what I mean. Whereas this is absolutely how to repair. So I'd like one little patch here, maybe one little patch there, but it's only really this front slam panel section, this bit. So again, I think at some point in this car's life, I'm going to do something interesting with that, but for now that'll do. So I'm going to bolt this up, get the front bumper back on, and hope that I actually measured something right for once, because I don't normally. Yep, I'll take that. That's about as close a fit as I'm going to get. It's got a very tiny little bit that just touches this bumper here. So I might need to just put a little bit of something behind there just in case. Now, obviously, it will get hot, but it shouldn't melt anything too much, hopefully. But that is pretty much perfect. So up next, cut this mesh to size. And if I'm feeling fruity, I'll try and get a little tiny bit of mesh to cover this section here. And anybody who's worried about, oh, yeah, but what if you get stones hit it and stuff, etc., etc., sometimes style has a price. Here we go. This is the mesh I was talking about. I don't know why. I might not like it once it's on there, but I just thought this kind of slightly thicker style mesh just might seem a little bit more kind of factory without being too boring. So I don't know what it's going to be like to cut and stuff or work with, because the metal stuff's obviously great because you can kind of fold it and bend it. But I'm going to do my best. I'll make maybe like a cardboard template first. There you go. And like anything like this, just take your time, cardboard is your friend. I'm not going to be able to do this very well one-handed, but with a little bit of trimming and taking it off and trimming it and taking it off and trimming it, I now have my little template for my piece of mesh, which I'll probably just use, I don't know what I'll use, maybe some hot glue or something just to hold that in place, maybe some resin or something. But I'll transfer that onto the grill, cut it off, and hopefully it fits as I expect it would. But I'm sure it will, because I've measured it 6 times. Done. Right, with any luck, and I promise I have not pre-tested this, this fits. If it doesn't, I have got enough to do it again, but I'd rather not. Do you know what? That's not too bad. I'll just get you a little bit closer here. Now, I think there's just a couple little bits just to trim on this, just so it can sit down, because it is supposed to be sat along this bottom ridge, just so I can obviously put whatever sort of sealing or whatever I'm going to use to stick it. So I'll just take it off a couple of times up here, just trim this a tiny little bit to go around it, and hopefully when I flip it over, it doesn't look like absolute tash. And there you go, I'm about as happy with that as I can be. It's a bit hard to sort of see this stuff in the light really, but that's kind of what I wanted. But if you get what I mean though, it just has a little bit more of a, dare I say it, classier look to it. I like that the corner sits out. I may spray it black at some point, we'll see. I just have to put this little section here through the bandsaw just to get that nice and straight. But otherwise, I may well paint the brackets on the spots black at some point, just toe that up. But it definitely looks a lot more complete than it did. The front end of this always looked a little bit thrown together. So yeah, absolutely buzzing. On to the next thing. The tiny oil leak that I knew that I had seemingly has got worse since parking it in my garage.